Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Erdley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Hello there, it's Catherine Erdley, founder of the Resilient Retail Club and host of the Resilient Retail Game Plan podcast. It's episode number 151. Before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to tell you about an exciting new offer that I have, which is a product business mastermind. If you've been wanting to combine the very best of one-to-one mentoring with the magic of masterminding with multiple businesses, then go to resilientretailclub.com, check out the heading mentoring. It's got all the details there. We're kicking off on the 10th of July. There are just 3 or 4 spaces. And if you'd like to join me this time round to get that support on tap in your business, as well as working with other ambitious product business owners, then go check it out. Can't wait to hear what you think. You can book a call to discuss the product business mastermind directly from the website. And today we're being joined by another ambitious product business owner, the amazing Sallie, who runs Urban Size. She's been running Urban Size for about 6.5 years. I've known her probably for about 4 years. We worked together a while ago to look at streamlining systems, and it's an amazing story. I know you're going to love it. She's going to be sharing how she built up her business from just a single idea for a single product into what it is today. Sallie, welcome to the podcast. Do you want to start us off by introducing yourself and your business?
Yeah, hi Catherine. So nice to be here with you today. So I'm Sallie, founder of Urban Size, which is a furniture brand specialising in furniture for small spaces. I started back in 2015 with a single product, the floating bedside table, which is still our bestseller today, and expanded to where we are now, which is around 40 products that we sell across our own site, Urban Outfitters, and on High Street.
And what was it that gave you this idea?
Well, it was interesting actually, because I lived in a really small flat in Greenwich back in 2015, and I had one of those beds that kind of fits into an alcove and there was like no space either side. So every morning I used to wake up and just be really annoyed that I had nowhere to put my morning cup of tea. I know that's like first world problems. But I just thought there must be some kind of solution to this. So to start with, I made like a little shelf to put next to the bed. And then I was like, it'd be so much more handy if there was somewhere to store stuff. So just kind of like built on that idea. And then I made like a prototype, and then I started photographing it and selling it on Etsy. So just one single product, and then just grew from there, like piece by piece, really.
That's amazing. And what was your background then before you started this business?
I was actually a lawyer before this.
I thought you were going to say product design,
Completely irrelated, like nothing to do with it at all. I was a lawyer. I really didn't enjoy that at all. So there was about a year before I left where I was just kind of like building on this idea. And that was probably when I was doing the prototypes and still working at my job, saving up. And then eventually got to the point where I could kind of like move into the other field without, too much of a problem.
Yeah, wow. It sounds like a real leap of faith.
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely. It always is though, isn't it? But I think like for me, because I'm just not a massive risk taker, it was important for me to have some kind of basis to start with before I made that like huge leap. When I first started on Etsy, I think it was really slow. It was really, really slow. I think I'd sold like one product a month, and then it slowly crept up to one a week. Like it was such a slow burn, it's just definitely not that sort of overnight success story. So I did wait until like it had started to build up, and then I finally felt like there was enough momentum for me to feel comfortable to make the switch.
Do you know what? I think it's so good for people to hear that, because so often we think that everything's like an overnight success.
I know, yeah.
And I love how you just kept going and kept going. But I have to ask about, if you made the prototype, were you making them the actual product itself in the beginning, or did you outsource?
Yeah, I mean, when I say I made it, I'm not, I'm not particularly skilled in that area, but I was just like putting pieces together. Or there was one drawer shelf thing that I just kind of like, I didn't make it from scratch. I just kind of like put some screws in the back and like worked out how to attach it to the wall. But
Right.
that wasn't what I was selling on Etsy though. When I did get to that point, I did have prototypes made in Hungary and then photographed those and then started ordering really small numbers from them. So I literally would order like 10 at a time to start with. Which is a really expensive way of doing it with furniture because you can't get it shipped over like in a normal way that I would now. So you're paying kind of DHL prices. So it was, to start with, it's a really expensive way to do it unless you're prepared to put an investment and kind of start with the big numbers, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. So you just started small and you effectively kind of snowballed it or bootstrapped it.
Yeah, completely. I never wanted to put investment into it really. Again, like part of me being risk adverse, like coming from a law background, it's not, just really sensible, that kind of thing. But it does mean that you have to start really, really slowly. You're waiting for that next injection of cash before you can take that next leap up. So you can never kind of go from like 10 to like 500. You have to like really slowly go bit by bit.
But I suppose what you're talking about here is exactly as you said, you've managed to grow it now. So just to kind of give people an idea, roughly speaking, you talked about how you kind of got to the point where you were shipping maybe one, you were selling maybe one a week.
Mm-hmm.
How many would you say you sell? I mean, just of everything, like roughly speaking, what kind of units are we talking about now?
Well, between about 400 and 600 units a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
definitely great.
So from one a month to say 400 to 600.
But that's taken, 8 years, I think we are now. So yeah. And like I say, it was just really, really gradual. And even with the product development, I only did the floating bed size to start with. And I was nervous to move into other areas. And what gave me the push is when I applied to sell on Not on the High Street.
Right, okay.
They didn't accept me, but they did reach out to me and they were like, we love the brand, we love the idea, we love the product, but we would never take someone on that's only got one product. You need at least 5. And I was like, oh God, okay. So that's when I went away and I designed another 4 pieces. So the range grew quite rapidly then. It was almost like they'd given me the confidence to be like, right, okay, we can do this. We need a few more products.
So the floating bedside is the one that started with the one you literally made yourself, where you had the shelf and you had the drawer underneath. So then what were your next products that you developed?
So I kind of like just went from that basis of an idea and just moved out into very similar products. So I did a floating dressing table that was kind of like on a similar vein. It was like much bigger than the bedside table.
Right.
And then had like this jewellery rail underneath for your jewellery to store it. Isn't that always so annoying in a small space where you've just got like a pile of jewellery?
Yeah.
Like, every morning it used to wind me up. So I was like, if you like have it all hung, it's like just makes your life so much easier. Anyway, and then I did a shelf. I think we did 2 shelves at that time. I can't remember what the 5th one was.
Would it have been your desk, or was it a desk at that point?
Yeah, that was it. It was the blogger desk. Yeah. We did the blogger desk. Yeah. Yeah, I've been for a long time. Yeah.
I love that it was called a blogger desk. It's great. So,
but it's also reflective of the time, isn't it? Because at that time, everyone was blogging, and that was like a huge thing. And a lot of people started their blogs, in their bedroom and like had a similar kind of journey, and then don't necessarily have a home office or whatever. So yeah, that was kind of, and what we did was like have the whole space of the surface free for people to do creative work. And then it came with like shelves above it so that you could store like your camera and your iPad or whatever else you needed for that kind of blogging journey.
Yeah. I love it. It sounds ideal for what year would that have been?
That would have been 2016, yeah.
Yeah, like peak blogging.
Yeah, exactly. I was really into blogs at that time, especially for interiors, because that was huge in that kind of area as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you've gone all the way from, so you said 8 years, you've gone from one product a month to hundreds of products a month.
Mm-hmm.
And you've done it all without outside investment, right? You've never had investment. You've touched on this earlier, I think, about the pace of growth and how you have to wait for the next injection of cash. But how have you managed that growth? How have you managed to grow organically? Because I know a lot of people feel like they can't grow unless they get investment, but obviously you've been able to do that. So what would kind of some thoughts or tips around that be?
Well, first of all, just being really patient with it. But I think because I was also not spending a huge amount of money on advertising, I was using a lot of organic methods. They are also slower, just naturally, in terms of like how you're going to grow. So just putting a lot of content out onto Pinterest.
Yeah.
I was blogging myself at the time, and that was working quite well as well, because you could kind of link the two. So do a blog post, I'd put it out on Instagram, I'd send it out on an email, and then I'd do Pinterest as well. So there's like 4 methods of like organic growth.
Yeah.
in kind of like one piece of content. But they, like I say, they are slower than sort of going all out with some big like Facebook ad campaign or whatever. So they kind of go hand in hand in a way in terms of not spending money and growing slowly.
But then that enabled you to, as you said, to have that slow growth, but you did keep going.
There were some really difficult points actually where I was growing too fast for what I could afford. So there would be a lot more demand than I could afford to buy stock for. Obviously, furniture is quite an expensive thing to have to buy in stock wise. So you never want to overorder. And because, there's quite a long lead time for it.
Right.
That is frustrating because you can see that there's the growth and the demand there, but you're like, I can't quite meet it yet. Just like going there like a little bit at a time.
I see. And then did you have that particularly, I imagine, things like desks for small spaces, was that huge during the pandemic?
Oh yeah, the pandemic was a completely different time though. That was because at that point it had grown to quite a decent size.
Yeah.
That was more difficult because the demand was huge. Like it was huge. It was for desks and that kind of thing. And also like other pieces because people were sitting in their house thinking, let's just like make it look nice in here.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Everything. But yeah, like you say, particularly desks. But it was really hard to get it in because, there was COVID in Europe as well, obviously, and they were shutting their factories all the time and like the transport to get stuff over, and there were just so many problems with the supply side of it. So that was like another sticking point where you're like, oh God, I can see like we could sell a lot here, but I just can't get it in.
So you just took it. So it sounds like both times where you had more demands than you could meet really with your sales.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's almost like you didn't panic. You just sold what you could sell and just kind of kept moving forward. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, definitely. Because there were I think there would have been an option at that point to think, right, I could get outside investment now because I can see that the demand is there. I've never wanted to really give away part of it, I guess. It's another thing, not just, the risk of taking on investment, but also having like someone else's thoughts and opinions that you have to take on at that point. I guess there's probably like a perfect investment partner for everyone, but I don't know.
But for you were happy to keep moving forward. I'm sure it felt frustrating at times, but for you were happy to kind of keep moving forward at the pace at which you could go.
Yeah.
And not overstretch yourself and not completely let it grow naturally, organically.
I think the other point with that is that you get to a point as a sort of solopreneur or, you're just doing everything yourself and it gets really busy. And you've also got the worry at the same time of trying to take on people to help you. So like finding freelancers or, other people that you're going to employ. So that's like another element of it that you need to tackle at the same time.
Does it feel then a bit insurmountable to like have big investment to buy loads of stock, to sell loads more, and then also get loads of people in to help you? Does it just feel like it would have been a bit too much?
For me, it definitely would have been because I've got 2 small children and that was my priority at the time, obviously. And like, I don't know if you had to do this, but homeschooling, oh my gosh.
Yes. Mine were a bit older, but it was really, really hard.
Yeah, it was really hard. So I think for me, it just wasn't a priority in terms of getting investment and just trying to go through that process. Because I think you need to be like all in if you're going to do that. You have to really go for it, don't you? And like, my time is definitely split to a degree.
Yeah, for sure. Now, this is the thing. I think a lot of people, well, some people may think that investment's kind of a bit like a silver bullet, but actually the process to go through to work through everything that you need to get ready for it is so huge that, it's just whether or not you've got the kind of, what's the word? The desire, the need to do it, everything else. When you look back on your journey now over the last 8 years, do you think there are key hurdles that you feel like you had to overcome as you grew?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a few points that really stand out for me where you're trying to make that change. One was definitely, I mean, when we met, I'm sure you'll remember, I was really struggling with stock management because when I first started, I had everything in my garage. So I would be able to walk in and I could visually see what I had, what I was running out of, and that kind of thing. And then it got to the point where it just wasn't physically possible to store it in my garage anymore. So I'd outsourced that to a warehouse. And that was like a key point as well, actually, just trying to find someone that I trusted. A lot of warehousing is for really big companies, so it's hard to find that middle ground.
It sounds like you have a really great fulfillment partner, though.
Yeah, they are amazing. I've been so lucky with them. I feel like I'm a little bit woo-woo like this, but I kind of like put it out there that I was looking for someone. I saw a lot of bigger places that I didn't get on with. And then I actually came across the girls that do the warehousing now in a chat room on Nottingham High Street.
No way.
Yeah, they were selling on there as well, and I was like on there one day, and they were like, "Oh, they just do their own business from their warehouse. They had some spare space, so they're like, we're doing fulfillment every day anyway. So if anyone needs this extra space, we can do it." And I was like, "This is like perfect." I went and met them and just really clicked, and it's worked really well ever since. They're brilliant.
So stock management, outsourcing to fulfillment, which sounds like it's gone very well.
Yeah, and then the stock management side of it, I was still kind of using my system of visually looking at everything,
Right.
which didn't work when there's then someone else involved. So I think when I came to you, we were kind of getting ourselves in a bit of a mess, really, in terms of like reordering and knowing what was there and just being on top of everything. And I think when I met you, you really helped me out, didn't you, with getting everything into spreadsheets and just getting super organized, which is not my forte at all. And that was amazing.
Well, I think as well, because you were selling across not on the high street, Etsy, and your own website, it was that pulling the 3 different channels in together, right, to understand, because it's one stock pot at the end of the day, but then it's being pulled from 3 different places. So it was definitely a good exercise to get that all streamlined.
You helped us find Vico, didn't you?
Yes.
The system, which was literally a game changer, because then it meant it helps you forward predict what you need to order, keeps on top of everything, all your inventory. Just such a good kind of software for like stock management. And that was the point where we started getting everything barcoded as well. Just really got like super organized. It was like we're suddenly a proper company.
So it sounds like a real turning point as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It really was. I think another turning point as well was when I outsourced my PR, because I think PR is something that you can do yourself. Definitely. I've like done loads of courses and like watched loads of podcasts and doing your own PR, and it's definitely something you can do. But when I outsourced to Gina, who does it now, she's just got contacts in the industry because she's been in it for years. So as soon as we've got something new and she puts it out, we get immediate response. Like it's a different ball game. And then, you know, at that point you start to get Sunday Times and The Stylish, you know, all those sort of big names that you sort of dream of being in. And that, again, A, you get the sales, and B, it just adds that element of trust for the customer. Because if you see a really small company and our product's obviously quite highly priced, it's just giving you that confidence to think, no, I feel confident to spend that money because Sunday Times have said it's good. There definitely is that element to it.
And so, that brings me on to my next question, because I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. So it's really interesting. So far, we've talked about 2 different types of outsourcing. You outsource your fulfillment, which was obviously, you couldn't have continued. I'm sure your garage doesn't fit 600. No. So you needed to outsource to grow your fulfillment, and that's been really successful. And you've also, sounds like, really successfully outsourced your PR. But I think one of the questions that I get asked a lot when people are growing, when they're faster growth or they're just, growing businesses, is at what point do you know, or how do you know, or how do you make the decision about what to outsource and when? So I feel like maybe fulfillment's slightly easier because you do just get to a point where it just doesn't physically fit anymore. But for something like PR, how, and other things that you may have outsourced, like how did you know when the time was right?
So the other things that I've outsourced are customer service.
Okay.
And marketing and social media.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I think for me, the time when I knew it was time to outsource was when I wasn't enjoying it anymore.
Yeah.
Because then, you start to not do it as well. And I think it's important to try and outsource a little bit before you're ready, in a sense, because with the customer service, I really needed somebody at that point because I just wasn't keeping on top of it enough. And with an online business, like, it's so important, customer service, because the minute someone hasn't heard back from you, they will be leaving you a bad review. And then that's, it's just such a big part of the trust of the customer to be able to come and buy from you. So yeah, I think just doing it a little bit before you're ready, and also just like as soon as you're not enjoying something, someone else will be able to do it better than you, 100%. Like the girls that do customer service now are amazing. They're really on top of it. They're always there for people. We get such good comments about customer service now.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing with customer service is to be honest, I do take things a little bit personally. So if someone writes and says, "Oh, I don't like this about this," I think, no, but that's not what. It's just, and that's not the point. Like,
Yeah, I completely agree. No,
I was just going to say that when I work with people, often one of the things that we first explore outsourcing is customer service, because you're completely right. Often what happens is, I don't know if this sounds familiar, and if anyone listening thinks sounds familiar, but it's like late at night, you're doing loads of things, you're on Instagram, someone sends a message, and it's like, you want to keep on top of it, so you're trying to keep on top of things, but then you're late. It's late and you're tired and you're feeling more emotional. And even if you don't respond emotionally, maybe it has an emotional impact on you. So I think that it's probably almost for everyone's benefit when you outsource customer service, because if you're being paid to come into or work remotely and log on and politely answer questions when people said things that sort of aggravated way, it's not going to bother you nearly as much if it's your job to do that than if you're the business owner who has built it from scratch, right?
I think that's a really good point that you just made there, actually, and definitely something that I took into consideration is that it was really affecting my mood. So if someone would send something, it might like throw my whole morning off, because I'd sit there ruminating about it, thinking, "Are they right? Are they right?" And it's not that deep. They're just like, they don't like the product. That's fine, but you get the odd customer, and it can really sort of throw your day. Whereas if you've outsourced that, then you can like be really focused on designing or whatever it is that like is your sort of strong point, without being distracted.
Yeah, it's like you can say to them, okay, I need a report that tells me how many complaints we have in a week. You're right. So you can kind of keep an eye on it from a top line level. So you're not saying, oh, I don't ever want to know when people say anything negative. Like you could have them capture it, but you certainly don't have to read it and respond.
Yeah, because then it becomes statistical. It's not so personal if you do it in that way. That's a really good point.
So follow your enjoyment. And then did you, in terms of financially as well, because of course that's the tricky thing, isn't it? It's balancing as the business is growing. How do you make that decision on what to spend, not just what to outsource, but spending the money on outsourcing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think everything that I've outsourced has definitely enabled me to spend more time making money. So it's just, I think a lot of those kind of things just pay for themselves in the end.
Yeah.
Another really good example actually is the social media and marketing. Chloe, who I work with, does that now, is just 10 times better at it than me. So we get like a much better return on like our investment because people like are engaging with content more. The emails are landing better with people than when I do them. So it kind of pays for itself in the end.
Do you have a process as well for managing the outsourcing? Because I think that's the other thing that people get stuck on. How do I know when the time is right? Working out the financial element. But then also it's like everyone that you've spoken about so far has been doing an amazing job, which is fantastic. I think a lot of people get burnt with outsourcing because they'll try it and maybe they won't get a good result. And then they feel like, oh, well, it doesn't work anyway, and I end up having to do it all myself. Do you think you've been really lucky? Have you had other times you've outsourced and it hasn't worked out so well? Or do you feel like you have a sort of like a process almost for how do you get the best out of it when you outsource?
I've had some terrible experiences as well.
But it's not put you off trying.
No, definitely not. Because when you find someone good that's like aligned with your business and they're like really interested in it as well and really invested in it, like it's so nice. It's like, because it's like working on your own all the time. You can get a bit lonely, a bit isolated, and you've got no one to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah.
And then when you finally find someone that is like really interested in your business, it's just a complete game changer. But I did in the beginning, I took someone on for marketing. She was doing Pinterest and I think she was doing some social as well. And she just didn't like the business, which was like fine, but it just really shows in how somebody works. And it just didn't work. We just didn't have like a synergy, and it was really difficult. She was the first person I took on for that. So yeah, definitely had bad experiences, but I think you just got to trust that the right people are out there.
Yes.
And not let one bad experience put you off, because it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen.
So it's not about avoiding the bad experiences, it's about learning from them and keeping
just
going.
Working through them, yeah.
And do you think a lot of people say to me, oh, I'm too much of a control freak to outsource things. Is that something that you've had to overcome? How did you feel about letting go? Or was it just at the point where you were like, I'm not enjoying this, they're brilliant at it, and you didn't feel that sort of, I'm letting go of control?
No, I'm very type A control freak. I didn't like doing it at all. Because when you first start, you do everything, don't you? Like the business is you, like you're doing all the marketing, doing all the customer service. You feel like you're like gripping onto everything so tightly. It's like, if I let go for a second, it's all going to fall apart. That's how I felt. And I think it was a definite process for me of like learning to trust people. And then just, the more you actually give people a bit of free rein to make their own decisions and like deal with things themselves, they actually do it much better than you trying to micromanage them all the time. That was definitely a process for me. I think it was like bit by bit by bit. I think now I've probably become a bit too hands off because I'm like, they're fine. But no, it's really hard in the beginning, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I like that what you're saying. I always say to people, you want to try and delegate responsibility instead of just a task. If you just say to someone, can you do this? Then they can only do that one task. But if you almost give them the responsibility for the whole thing, start to finish, like customer service, once you've checked their work, obviously, and you're happy with the tone and the way they respond to people, and giving them that ownership probably helps you as a business owner as well, gives you a bit more space and room not to micromanage, as you said.
Yeah, no, I really like that, delegating the responsibility. That's really good, definitely.
And just learning that it might not feel comfortable if you're a type A.
No, it doesn't. But it does in the end, and it does just give you that room to try and like work on other things and expand your business in other ways that you just wouldn't have the time or headspace to do if you're still working on those other kind of administrative tasks.
Yeah, for sure. So what is next for Urban Size?
Wow. I don't know if you saw recently, but we just launched a curved range, which is
really
exciting. Yeah. I'm actually in talks with like a really big retail brand for that one. So I'm really excited about that. Which is the first time I've really done that because I've not done any kind of wholesale up until this point. So that's like a really new area for me to explore. I think it's really important at the moment as well because, you know, the B2C market's definitely slowed down with like the cost of living crisis. So just exploring other avenues. Also working a lot more with interior designers directly and people that design show homes. So that's been quite fun. Yeah.
Oh, that does sound like fun. So the people who are making small apartments, city living.
Well, I think a lot of new builds now are really small, aren't they? Or
that's true.
A smaller footprint, and especially, well, not maybe the homes themselves, but the showrooms where they, you know, you go around and look, they are like a really, really small footprint, and they're trying to make it look as spacious as possible. So actually, our furniture is working really, really well for them in that. So that's been quite fun.
Perfect. So you've kind of been branching out and exploring, connecting with people who also will be talking to your ideal customer.
Exactly. Yes. That's a really good point.
Yeah, strengthening that network. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our talk today, Sallie. Do you want to tell everyone where they can find out more about Urban Size?
Yeah, definitely. So we're on urbansize_home on all social, and then urbansize.co.uk.
Thank you so much to Sallie for joining us today. I really enjoyed our talk and I hope you did too. What did you take away from it? Why not come over to Resilient Retail Club on Instagram? Let me know what your key takeaways were. And of course, if you have a moment to rate and review the podcast, it makes such a difference. You can leave a review in iTunes. You can leave a rating inside the Spotify app. And of course, if you subscribe or follow, you'll be the first to know about each new episode. If you're listening to this and feeling motivated, maybe you're another ambitious product business owner, then do definitely go check out my new mentoring. Go over to resilientretailclub.com, click on the mentoring section, and you'll get details of my brand new product business mastermind, which combines the best of one-to-one mentoring with the magic of working with the mastermind of other ambitious businesses. Go check it out. We've got just a couple of spaces. We're launching on the 10th of July. I'd love to see you there. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretailclub.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, the Resilient Retail Club is the place for you. With a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretailclub.com.